Good morning. Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services, Education, and Related Agencies will please come to order. Today we are having a hearing on the Biden administration's fiscal year 2023 request for the Department of Education. Senator Blunt and I will each have an opening statement, and then I will introduce our witness. After his testimony, senators will each have 5 minutes for a round of questions. We are unable again to have this hearing fully open to the public or media for in-person attendance. Live videos available on our committee website, and if you are in need of accommodations, including closed captioning, please reach out to the committee or the Office of Congressional Accessibility Services. Mr. Secretary, I know everyone on this committee is focused on what we can do to protect our kids and educators in light of the tragedy at Robb Elementary School in Texas. Those families are in my heart, and the need for action is heavy on my mind. And of course, that was 10 days before the mass shooting at a school in Texas. There was a mass shooting in a grocery store in Buffalo. Last week, there were several more, including one at a health center. And we've also seen mass shootings at movie theaters, concerts, houses of worship. When a mass shooting happens everywhere, this isn't just a school problem, it is a gun problem. So while there's much to say about how we can protect our kids from gun violence, we can't fix this by asking educators to be soldiers and bringing more guns into schools. We cannot fix it by turning classrooms into prisons or simply buying more metal detectors. We have to pass common sense gun safety reforms, so there's no getting around it. Universal background checks, assault weapons ban, red flag laws. I am ready to work with any Republican to make any kind of meaningful change here, and I hope that after years of blocking progress, they reverse course. Because as a mother and a grandmother and a former preschool teacher, it's not hard for me to choose between guns and kids, and I don't think that should be a hard choice for anybody. I believe prioritizing our kids and making sure every one of them receives a great public education and can pursue higher education is one of the best decisions we can make every time. I am constantly hearing from parents across Washington State who feel the same. That's a belief that got me into politics, and it drives my work every day. It's why I pushed so hard in our recent bipartisan funding bill to make the largest increase in more than a decade to Title I funding for public schools and to Pell Grants, and it's why I'm glad this budget calls for even more resources to support students from preschool through college and career readiness and to address inequities in education that harm so many students. And it's why Democrats worked so hard to pass the American Rescue Plan to help our help schools get our kids back in the classroom safely and address students' academic and mental health needs, which were worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. The fact almost all schools are operating in person today is a clear testament to how useful those resources were. But there is more work ahead to address the challenges this pandemic has exposed and exacerbated for families, and kids especially. The child care crisis is a huge weight on families, on businesses, on our entire economy. I'm continuing to push with everything I've got for an investment through reconciliation of the size and scope we need to fix this. If we do that, we can get parents, especially moms, back to work, put more money back in their pockets, and set our kids up for a brighter future. I've heard from so many parents and educators and students back home also about the mental health challenges our kids are facing. And I've been making sure the Biden administration hears from them too. From the student who joined me and Surgeon General Murthy to discuss these challenges earlier this year, to the mental health professionals that sat down with me and Secretary Becerra in Washington State a few weeks ago. We need to make sure that our kids and everyone in our communities get the help they need. That's why I'm working to take action on youth mental health as part of a larger bipartisan package. Another enormous challenge for schools and students is the learning loss that this pandemic caused. Educators are working tirelessly to re-engage students, to address their academic needs and tackle the years of disrupted learning. But it's not easy to get things on track in the wake of a pandemic, especially amid the staffing shortages. And this work is all the more urgent for kids who were already facing the greatest barriers in education, only to face the greater burdens of this pandemic as well. That includes students of color, students with disabilities, English learners, students from families with low incomes, and students experiencing homelessness. So, Mr. Secretary, I'm pleased to see that this budget provides a critical boost to our public education system, especially increasing the Title I program that serves over 60% of public schools in the U.S. It prioritizes support for students with disabilities, an issue where states and districts have fought for too long, struggling to fill the gaps in federal funding. And it increases support for the more than 5 million English learners and youth, including immigrants. Mr. Secretary, these are worthwhile investments, but there's room for improvement, particularly when it comes to helping students experiencing homelessness. The pandemic has been especially challenging for these kids, and we have to invest in their success. We also need to address the crushing burden of student debt. There's one word that keeps coming up when I talk to people about our student loan system: broken. So I applaud the Biden administration's recent move to provide full debt relief to the over 500,000 students who were ripped off by Corinthian colleges. And I know the department is also moving on long-needed fixes to income-driven repayment plans and the public service loan forgiveness program, like I've been pushing for. For too long, these programs were mismanaged, and the previous administration simply ignored struggling borrowers who are asking for help. I'm glad to see that change under President Biden, but I'm not content, and I won't be until we finally have a system that actually works for students and borrowers. And that means finally seeing this administration extend the current repayment pause until at least 2023 and provide immediate relief by forgiving some debt for all borrowers while working on creating a student loan system that provides real help, especially to those who need it the most. And of course, we've got to address the root of the problem. Higher education is just too expensive. We've got to do everything we can to lower the cost of college. So I'm really glad this budget supports efforts I've pushed for to simplify the federal student aid application process and expand eligibility for those with the greatest need. It increases funding for TRIO and retention and completion grants, and increases Pell Grant awards to put the program on a path to doubling the maximum award, a fitting tribute for the 50th anniversary of Pell this year. But cost is not the only barrier that prevents students from pursuing higher education goals, which is why working to make college more accessible means investing in historically Black colleges, tribal colleges, and universities, and other minority-serving institutions as well. Mr. Secretary, I always say a budget is a statement of values, and this budget shows President Biden truly understands the value of ensuring every student in our country gets a high-quality public education. That is no surprise when we have an educator as the First Lady. But unfortunately, that stands in sharp contrast to the statements we've seen from some Republicans, like the governor of Texas, who is planning to challenge the decades-old Supreme Court precedent establishing the right to a public education for all children, including undocumented students. That should be shocking and concerning to everyone. Public education is a foundation of this democracy, and no one should be playing politics with our kids' futures. The last thing any kid needs is a politician making life harder for them because of where they are from, or who they are, or who they love. I'm focused on what matters most when it comes to education, and that is not banning books, not punishing teachers for teaching history, or targeting gay and trans teachers and kids who just want to talk about what they did with their family over the weekend or just be a part of a team with their friends. It's making sure that every child in our country can get an excellent public education that prepares them to succeed in life. We're talking about the basics here. It's also making sure our students are safe from gun violence, from discrimination, from harassment and assault. And it's making sure parents have more time to spend on the things they care about most, making it easier for them to be involved at their kids' schools. Look, I got my start in politics as a parent advocate. I organized thousands of moms and dads to save a preschool program. I served on my local school board. I know how valuable it is to have parents involved. And I know making sure parents can get involved in their kids' education starts with supporting families and delivering good-paying jobs so parents actually have the time to ask their kids about school, affordable childcare and health care, and guaranteed paid family and medical leave. Those investments will take stress off the shoulders of parents. And when mom and dad aren't trying to figure out how to afford their kids insulin, they can spend more time helping them on their homework or just asking them how their day went. These are the issues parents and students back in Washington State are focused on. They are the issues I'm focused on, and it is great to see President Biden is focused on them too. With that, I will turn it over to Senator Blunt for his opening remarks.